सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति। We continue with the discussion on the mind and intellect. All along, what we have seen till now is human being actions, choices can be driven either by the mind or by the intellect. Life being action and action being choices, it can be driven either by the mind or by the intellect. And it is the intellect that is so unique to a human being, and that intellect has to be made use of properly. For which we went into knowing what mind is and what intellect is. In the previous session, we studied what mind is. In this session, we are going to study the important factor called the intellect, known as the intellect. First thing about intellect that we understand is all species is given a natural protection. All species is given a natural protection. What is the natural protection given to the cobra? The poison. What is the natural protection given to the lion, to the tiger? Its powerful claws. So you understand each and every species is given a natural protection. A cow has to graze. So what does the cow do? It grazes a lot. And then in the evening sits in one corner and brings it out and chews it again. That's a natural protection given to the cow. Similarly, if we were to ask this question, what is the natural protection given to the human being? The answer is, the natural protection given to the human being is the intellect. A human being has a body. Other species also has a body. Where is the uniqueness to it? The human being has emotions. Other species also has emotions. Where is the uniqueness to it? Where is the natural protection to it? So the natural protection for a human being is in his intellect. What the lion did 5,000 years back is what the lion is doing now, is what the lion will do 5,000 years later also. What the tiger did 5,000 years back is what the tiger does now, and is what the tiger will do 5,000 years later. What human being did 100 years back is not what we did 5,000 years back, is not what we are doing today. And 100 years later, there may be a totally different generation. None of us will be there 100 years later. There will be a totally different human generation sitting and talking, and they will be doing something so completely distinct and different from what we are doing now. In that sense, these changes we see in human life is because of the intellect. Therefore, we understand the natural protection given to a human being is intellect. The only catch here is this. The only catch here is, even though it is a natural protection, it got to be exercised to make it strong. It is a potential. Just as muscles are given, we have to exercise it and make it strong. Supposing at birth itself, muscles become strong by itself. How nice it will be, no? We don't have to make an effort and all, and muscles will grow by itself and it becomes strong. Na? how nice life would be. Muscle as a potential is given, you have got to exercise it and make it strong. Similarly, intellect is a potential. Every human being is given this intellect at birth, and they have to exercise it to make use of it. Vedanta is the knowledge, the science that is entirely dedicated to the development of intellect. Vedanta is an exclusive subject, the only subject that is exclusively designed, well thought of, designed in how to strengthen the human intellect. So first thing about intellect we understand is it is a natural protection given to a human being. Remove the intellect, the human being becomes very weak. Take the intellect away, the human being becomes very weak because the mind becomes powerful. To remove the intellect, what happens? The mind becomes powerful. And when the mind becomes powerful, what happens? We have seen that. Powerful mind means powerful impulses, powerful likes and dislikes, exaggerations, all that. When all this becomes very powerful, and when choices are made with that powerful mind, it is self-destructive. Therefore, Vedanta comes and says, every human being individually destroy themselves. Nobody from the external world need to come and harm a human being. For a human being harms himself. How? By yielding to the mind and not bothering to develop the intellect. By yielding to the mind and not bothering to develop the intellect. For example, we saw the mind last week, emotions, impulses, etc. What is suicide? A decision made in an impulse, no? A decision made in an impulse. If only the intellect was there and said, wait, let us weigh the pros and cons of this decision of suicide, and then I will commit suicide. Now, will anybody commit suicide? What a wonderful opportunity this life is, and impulse can take it away just like that. You follow? Therefore, you see, the intellect not being there becomes detrimental because the natural protection given to a human being is not. The natural protection given to a human being is not made use of at all. Having said this, intellect is a natural protection. It resolves the paradoxes of life. It helps you to make the right choices. Now the important question is, enough sir, 4 weeks we have heard, 1 month we are listening. 4 weeks means 1 month, no? 1 month we have listened to this intellect. What is this intellect? Today we are going to see what intellect is. And then the rest of the 5 sessions we will be seeing the practical application of the intellect. So today we will be discussing what intellect is, and the rest of the 5 sessions will be the practical application of the intellect in various aspects of life, so that we understand how it is a natural protection. So at the end of the 10th session, if we could convince one person that there is this entity called intellect and you got to strengthen it, I will congratulate myself. I'll say, wow, you did a good job. For it is difficult to explain what this intellect is. So now we are coming to the crux. What is intellect? Just as mind had a few definitions, intellect also has a few definitions. In the board, you can see the definitions and we will take up one by one. What is intellect? Intellect is that questions, thinks, analyzes, reasons, assess, conclusion, objective and decision maker, explores, choices made on obligations, action with service and no ownership, concentration, consistency, cooperation, communication, creative. Last one. Intellect alone can direct the mind and action towards an ideal, pursues till it attained. This is the intellect. Now we will take it up one by one by one. First function of the intellect is questioning. The sign that the intellect is awakened is when the child starts questioning. Whenever the child has started to ask questions, it means the intellect has started to function. So the first sign of intellect having developed, started to function is called questioning. That's where you find all children. They are very irritating. Okay, all through they are irritating. That's a different story. The first few years, it's too much to handle them. Why? Because they question. So much they question each and everything. They question so much that at one point of time, we tell them, yes, sir. Or intelligent parent will say, ask intelligent questions. Don't ask dumb questions. Ask intelligent questions. I'm willing to answer, sir, but they should ask intelligent questions, not dumb questions. And according to the parent, what is the most intelligent question? The only intelligent question the child can ask. How to increase my bank balance? Now, what an intelligent question. Rest of the questions are all dumb questions. The first sign of intellect is it questions. It's a natural. Questioning is natural to a human being. By training, we stifle the questioning and we make the child forget questioning. But questioning is a natural ability. That's why when the child starts, nobody has to tell the child the question. It goes on questioning. From questioning arises thinking. From thinking arises analysis. Analysis means you gather data and try to make sense out of the data. That is analysis. You have so much of data, and analysis is nothing but rearranging the data, trying to understand the data so that you get so that you understand something. Reasons. Why it is like this, why it is not like that, weighing the pros and cons. Assessment. Intellect is that which makes the right assessment. And then concludes. Concludes means tells you what to do, what not to do. Concludes. Concludes means telling you what you should do and what you should not do. Questioning as an art is forgotten nowadays. And all Vedantic literature, if you take, all Vedic Vedantic literature, if you take and see, it will be in the form of a question and an answer. Bhagavad Gita, if you take, it's in the form of question and answer. Arjuna keeps on asking questions. Krishna goes on explaining Bhagavad Gita. You go to the Upanishads, the disciple asks a question, the Guru answers, and then there is a clarification, there is an answer. So you see, all spiritual literature is in the form of question and answers. Because it is designed to strengthen the intellect. And if it has to strengthen the intellect, it means questions has to be encouraged. Questions has to be encouraged and questions has to be answered. All questions in Vedanta is always dealt with utmost sanctity. Questions are dealt with utmost sanctity is given to the question, not to the monologue lectures. Sanctity is always to the question. Why question is given so much of important sanctity? Each and every question removes one layer of ignorance. It's like onions. You peel. Every question removes one layer of ignorance. And human being needs to get rid of that ignorance. We need knowledge. And knowledge comes through the instrument called the intellect. So how does it work? First is it questions. Think. Thought running one after the other is not thinking. Carefully follow. People believe the thought flowing one after the other itself is thinking. That is not thinking. Thinking hijacked by the desires of thinking, hijacked by the mind is also not thinking. Most of the time, the human being's thinking is hijacked by the desires. So all thinking happens under the pressure of desire. All thinking happens under the pressure of desire. So thinking is not how to fulfill the desire. Thinking is why the desire. Why the desire? What will I get by fulfilling it? I have done this so many times in the past. What did I learn out of it? What am I going to learn now? This is thinking. So thinking means not under the influence of the desire. Thinking means independent of the desire. Intellect can do that. Mind cannot do that. Mind will always try to force you to fulfill its wants. And most of the time, our thinking is hijacked by the desires. That's why there is no proper choices made at all. Thinking under the influence of a desire means what? You have already decided that you want it and you give justifications to support it. That's what. That's why we don't call it as thinking. We call it as justification. Justification also kind of thinking. No, we use two words. Are you able to notice the difference? One is justification, another is thinking. What is the desire between what is the difference between justification and thinking? In thinking, you have not decided. In justification, decision is made. I like this person, sir, and then reasons are given. I like this, and then decision is already made. Are you able to follow? Most of the time we get into trouble because of this way of functioning. Intellect says, let us explore the desire. Intellect doesn't say stifle the desire. Intellect doesn't say get rid of the desire. Intellect doesn't say that. Intellect says, okay, you like it. Let us think about it. Let us analyze it. Let us reason it out. Let us assess and then decide whether do I want it or not. This exercise is called strengthening the intellect. And you don't have to do it for each and every desire. You learn it for a few as early as you can. This wisdom will be available to you in all aspects of life. It's not that every time you have to sit and go through all this process. It's initially you have to go through all this process. Just as when you are driving for the first time, if the trainer says, hit the brake, You have to see where the brake is and then it isn't it. Hit the brake. Oh, where is the brake? You have to hit it. You have to see it and then hit it. After a while, what happens? Whenever the brake has to happen, the leg will go automatically. Once you train yourself in this for a few times again and again and again, what happens? You become an expert driver. Who's an expert driver? Expert driver is where he knows when to hit the brakes. He will not search for where the brake is. Number one. Number two, a good driver, expert driver is one who can anticipate the driving of the fellow before you. Anticipating, he knows how the fellow is driving, accordingly, he drives. This is intellect. Are you able to follow? Intellect is like this driver. Not only you know how to drive properly. I know how to drive properly, sir, but I don't know how to anticipate the fellows around me, then what is the use? So intellect does two things. You become an expert driver. Not only you become an expert driver, you know how to anticipate the, you know who is the bad driver. Accordingly, you know how to maneuver and get back to the track. So don't think that question, thinking, analysis, reason, assessment, no, oh my God, how much time it will take, sir? Each and everything, if I start doing like this, when will I ever make a decision and move in life? No, it's not like that. It's exactly like driving. A few months of practice is enough. Carefully follow. A few months of practice. What is practicing? Questioning, thinking, analysis, etc. These are the two definitions of mind, and these are the first two aspects of intellect. So it starts with questioning and comes to the conclusion. Any conclusion drawn by the intellect is called a conviction. Any conclusion drawn by the mind is called impulsive. Understand the difference? Any conclusion that comes through the process of questioning, thinking, analysis, etc. is the conviction. And conviction means there will not be a change after that. That is called a conviction. Any decisions that is made by the mind is impulsive. That is why you go on changing it. So intellect is that which comes to a conclusion, meaning a conviction. That conclusion made by the intellect becomes a conviction. Conviction means no temptations after that. Conviction means you don't get tempted after that. During the Second World War, the Britishers were trying to infiltrate into the Germans, and they couldn't infiltrate. They came back and told Churchill that they are so patriotic that we are not able to infiltrate them at all. Churchill said, nonsense. There is no such thing called patriotism and all. Find that person's price and pay. For every man has a price. Everybody gets tempted by something or the other. Find that person's temptations and pay that price. If you have a powerful intellect, Churchill didn't meet a person who had an intellect. If Churchill has met a person who has an intellect, he wouldn't have said that. Why? Because you have an intellect, you can't get tempted again. Temptation means you will never make the wrong choices. That is the natural protection given to a human being, the intellect. So first thing, questioning, thinking, analysis, reasons, assesses, concludes. This is the intellect. This training has to be done. This training has to be done. In these 10 weeks, the idea for these 10 weeks is to convince you that there is this thing called intellect. So at the end of the 10th week, you will ask, you are supposed to ask her, please ask. How do I strengthen my intellect? You should ask. And then only I can say, there is a course, there is a proper course. You have to join the course and do it. Then only it's a course. That's why I started today's discussion by saying it's a course. It's not even though we call it as natural protection, if it grows by itself, course is not required. But then it doesn't grow by itself. Just as muscle is a potential, intellect is a potential. You need to know how to exercise it. And if you exercise it wrongly, it can be more dangerous. That's why when you go for training, you have to train under supervision, isn't it? You can't train all by yourself. You got to, under supervision means there is a course. You follow that particular course. Over a period of time, you will develop all that comes. Questions, things, analysis, reasons, assessment, and then comes the conclusion. That conclusion turns into a conviction, and that conviction becomes the right choice. It means no weaknesses in you after that. Conviction means there is no weaknesses in you after that. That person is a strong human being. Not only he is strong, he becomes a source of inspiration for others also. Not only he is strong within himself, he becomes a source of inspiration to others also. So that is the first important aspect of the intellect, is to question. It starts with questioning and come to conclusion. And the conclusion turns, I'm just repeating it for the fifth time, because again we will not revisit these definitions. We'll be seeing the applications of it. And if anybody wants to repeat the definitions again, I will be more happy to do that. I will take 5 sessions even to explain these definitions. But then another problem is how to hold the audience is my problem also, no? Yeah. Entertainment only if I keep it entertained, something will happen. No, so some practical applications, some tips and all will be given later. But the crux is this: when intellect turns into a conviction, conviction means no more weaknesses. A person who has no weaknesses is a strong human being. Weaknesses means yielding to one's own mind. That is the weakness. Weaknesses comes from where? From one's own mind. The third definition of the intellect is objective. Intellect is objective, and it should be the decision maker. Natural design is intellect should be the decision maker. Because of lack of training, it is not the decision maker now. So the third thing, objective and decision maker. Objectivity means the ability to, opposite of objectivity is blinded. Opposite of objectivity is blinded. You are blind. Involved. I'm not using the word involvement. I have deliberately chosen to use the word blinding. Opposite of objectivity is being blinded. Blinded by what? By your own mind. So intellect is that which is objective. Objective means not blinded. Not blinded by the mind. It can stand apart from the mind and see it. You take one step backwards and think. That taking one step backward is called objectivity. If you are blinded, you cannot take one step back. That is objectivity. One of the great Western thinkers in the 18th century, George Gurdjieff. He said, the greatest knowledge I got from my father. Father's parting message. The father is dying. He didn't leave any big legacy to inherit. So he called George and said, I'm not leaving you any legacy or anything, but I don't feel bad about it. For I have something most important to tell you. Remember, whenever you get angry, respond 24 hours later. And George Gurdjieff says, all my philosophy arose out of that one sentence, he says, and it is true. That is called objectivity. He speaks about objectivity a lot. And he says, all this came out of that one statement that my father told me. What? When you get angry, respond 24 hours later. If you respond 24 hours later, what will happen? There will not be any anger at all in the first place, because anger is an impulse. Are you able to follow? Same thing this person writes. Dale Carnegie, we all know that man, no? He has written some of the world's best sellers. How to influence people and win friends. Bestsellers. No, I'm not talking about his books, sir. I'm talking about an incident that he writes that happened in his life. Objectivity. I'm just giving an example for what objectivity is. One day he was on the radio, live radio show. Like a live program like this. So somewhere like anybody can ask any question, or somebody can even I have a question, and then they can put up their hands and say, sir, you are talking absolute rubbish nonsense. So better you keep quiet. People can say that also. No, it's a live program. And Dale Carnegie was on a live program on a radio. When he was on the radio talking, he made a factual error. He made a factual error when he was referring something about Abraham Lincoln, and he made a factual error. Like, factual error means when India got independence on 2nd October, if I say that. When did India get independence? Anybody? No. No, sir, I'm not from India, therefore I don't know. India got independence on 15th August. 2nd October is Gandhi's birthday. So in the course of a conversation, there is a factual error. What is the factual error? That when India got independence on 2nd October, immediately a person came on the radio and said, get your facts correct before you speak. Get your facts correct before you speak. He was so angry, but then he can't show it on the. He couldn't show it on the show. He was so angry. But then he somehow managed. He came back to his office with that anger, and he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter to that lady. You should have some manners. You should take the spirit of what is being said. No, I don't know what all he wrote. He wrote, and then he called the secretary and said, post the letter. And you know the definition of the secretary. What is the definition of the secretary? You tell the person to do something and that person will not do it. That's called secretary. To tell the person and they do it now is a follower, not secretary. And secretary, she being honest to her profession, she didn't post. Next morning, Dale Carnegie comes and sees the letter on his desk. He's more angry now. He's more angry. Called that lady and said, you blah, 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 whatever he said. They said, post the letter. As she took the letter from the desk, his eyes glanced on that letter. She was leaving the door. Immediately he called her and said, come. He said, this word is a harsh word. Let me correct that letter. He corrected one word and said, now post it. And she took to post. And then Dale Carnegie says, a thought crossed If in a matter of 12 hours, if I have changed one word, let me sit with that letter every day, he thought. Let me sit with that letter every day and see what happens to that letter. So every day he sat with that letter, the first thing in the morning, went on editing, went on correcting, went on editing, went on correcting. Fourth day, he thought to himself, the way what you said is correct only. No, I made a mistake. No, I made a mistake. No, what should 10th day, that letter became a love letter, and he ended up marrying that person. What is objectivity? Not to react impulsively. Not to react impulsively. Take a step back. Take a step back. Objectivity. Out of this objectivity, you think, analyze, reason by taking a one step back, connected with the previous definition. Are you able to see the practice now? Out of objectivity, by exercising objectivity, you take one step back and then question, think, analyze, reason, assess, etc., and then decides, decision maker. That is the second, the third aspect of the intellect. The fourth aspect of the intellect is the most beautiful one. In fact, this is what intellect is. Explores. Intellect is that which explores. Mind is comfortable in the known areas. It is the intellect that can explore into the unknown area. Again, I repeat, mind will be comfortable with the known. It is the intellect that can explore into the unknown. And growth happens only when you can explore. Isn't it? Growth is possible only when you explore. And if you look at life, all growth in life, what all that brought about betterment to human life, if you see, all because of one person had the courage to explore. One person had the courage to explore. One man had the courage to explore, and we all reap the benefits of it. Man means not necessarily man, woman also. It doesn't matter. There is no man intellect or woman intellect. Intellect is common to man and woman. Man and woman is at the bodily level. At the mind and intellect, there is no man intellect and woman intellect. In the course of conversation, we are saying man, 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 that's all. It means women also. Manasa, correct, no? Manasa, so what about women, sir? Don't I? It is women also. Huh? It is common to both. Mind is common to both. Intellect is also common. Human species. So, whatever growth has happened in a human species, if you see, one person had the courage to explore. And that exploration brought about betterment to life. That is intellect. And in everyone, there is this thing to explore. But what happens? For various reasons, we don't explore. That's why in this culture, not nowadays, nowadays it's not practiced anymore. In those days, exploration is encouraged a lot. Why we are afraid to explore? Why the mind is frightened to explore? Failure. Fear of exploration means there is a possibility of failure, correct? When you explore, there is a possibility of failure. Exploration means you do not know the end result. You have an idea in mind, and you are going through a process to find that out. You may find it, you may not find it, or it may take a very long time to find it. Mind, out of its fear, will not allow exploration. For the question that it will ask, what is the question that the mind will ask? Sir, I am willing to explore, sir. Are you sure it will work? You are sure? No, sir, it will work. No, then I will explore. There is no exploration after that because you know the result already. No. See, coming and sitting in Vedanta classes, 5 sessions is an exploration. No? To me, it is not an exploration. To you, it is an exploration. Why? Because you don't know what it is. Or you have some idea of what Vedanta is. And then you came in here. And this fellow said something so different from what we thought Vedanta is. And then we thought something as mind, he is saying something else. It is like this spirit is called exploration. What will happen at the 10th week? I don't know what will happen at the 10th week. Huh? What will happen at the 10th week, sir? What will happen? I don't know. Come for the 10 weeks, you will know what will. That is exploration. Intellect is that which can explore. The mind that is result oriented will not allow you to explore. And if you don't explore, you lead an unfulfilled life. If you have not explored, your life is so unfulfilled life. You feel that life is very mechanical, sir. Something is missing in my life. Something is missing in my life. What is missing? That exploration is missing. Now, when you are exploring, what you should understand? The result is not guaranteed. That is why, if you see the percentage of the people who enroll for PhDs and how many finish PhD. You see the number of people enrolling for PhDs and how many successfully complete PhD. Out of 100 who enrolls, 10 alone will complete. 90% will not complete. Why? Because you need exploration. 3 years you work. At the end of the 3rd year, you will find out that you have made some fatal errors. 4th year, you have to start all over again. Where will you get the motivation from? Intellect gives you that motivation. We all talk about motivation, no? Motivation is nothing but exploration. Exploration means unconcerned about the results, willing to take, unconcerned about the result, willing to continue in spite of failures. Don't say willing to take a chance, sir. That is not intellect. It's not I'm taking a chance, sir. That's not intellect. Willing to continue in spite of failures. That's why I'm giving one story. I'm giving for one thing, huh? So that one story, if you remember, you can connect to the whole thing. Dale Carnegie, one story I said. Now, for exploration, I'll give you another story. And when I say story, I am not the creator of this story, sir. Historical facts, I'm taking it and presenting. You know, it took 25 years for Thomas Alva Edison to discover the bulb. You know, the 25 years of research. We all explore. It's not that we all don't explore. We all explore. At the first failure, second failure, we stop and go back. First thing, at the first obstacle, we get disillusioned. At the first failure, we want to go back. Thomas Alva Edison was told at the end of the 25th year, his friends threw a party. And he has not yet discovered the bulb. Huh? He has not yet discovered the bulb. So the friends threw him a party. And they all asked him, don't you think you have wasted 25 years? For 25 years, you have not made the bulb now. What guarantee is there that you are going to make? You have wasted 25 years. Thomas said, no, 25 years is not a waste. In 25 years, I know 1,000 ways of how not to make a bulb. In what all ways a bulb cannot be made, I know. But bulb I will make one day for sure. See, that man discovered the bulb. We are reaping the benefits, no? That is intellect. And human being has the potential to live life at that level. Because of yielding to the mind, we compromise our status. Intellect lifts us up to our original status. That is exploration. Exploration obviously involves time, effort, money. Exploration obviously involves what? Time, effort, money. Mind says minimum time, minimum effort, no money at all. Time, okay, minimum time, sir. Effort, minimum effort. Money, no. Exploration becomes impossible. That's why the duty of the parent is to allow the child to experiment, allow the child to explore. In that exploration, it faces a few failures and it develops the courage to face failures. It has a strong intellect. The fourth aspect of the intellect is it explores. The fifth one is obligations. On what basis it chooses the actions? It chooses the actions based on obligations. Obligation means not as a burden. Obligation means out of thankfulness. You choose actions out of thankfulness. You choose actions out of gratitude. That is obligation. Mind is that which gets attached to possessive. We saw that. Opposite of that is intellect has no ownership, no possessiveness. Are you able to compare and contrast? There we said mind is that which get possessive. Mind is that which get attached. Intellect is that which claims no ownership. It says, it's my duty to do. I don't have ownership on it. The sixth one, how not to develop ownership and all, we are going to see in the practical applications. The practical applications, we are going to see how not to develop ownership, what is the practice of, what is the formula of service, obligations, all that we are going to see. The next one is, you can call it as 5C. Bus number Mari, 5C. It looks like the bus route number. Concentration, consistency, cooperation, communication, creative. A wonderful aspect of the intellects. Concentration, consistency, cooperation, communication, creative. It is the function of the intellect is to be creative. The mind is pattern making. Mind is that which makes everything into a pattern, and it will go through the same pattern again and again and again. Like drivers. You drive on a road, you develop a pattern, and by default you will go on the same. You will go on the same road. It's mind is the pattern making mechanism. That's why mind is called repetitive mechanical. Distinct and different from the mind is this intellect. Creative. Now, what is concentration? Concentration is when you choose an action, the mind has to focus on that chosen activity. That is called concentration. I have chosen to speak to you from 10 to 11. When I have chosen to speak to you from 10 to 11, I should concentrate. That is called concentration. What is consistency? Consistency is nothing but the capacity to say no to the interference. Consistency is the capacity to say no. You have a plan of action. You have an idea. You have fixed. What is it that you have fixed? That 10 to 11, you will sit and listen. 10 to 11, I will sit and talk. What is consistency? Whatever distractions comes, I say no. That is consistency. And achievement is possible to those who have consistency. And of all the virtues, consistency is of the most important virtue. All the virtues, consistency is the important virtue. And whoever has consistency, even if they don't lack so much of skill, they will still go to the highest. A simple example I'll give you. In 2000, Wisden is the cricket book. The cricket book Wisden chose the all-rounder of the century. And they chose quite a few, and there were 4 good all-rounders in cricket. And you know who they chose? They chose Kapil Dev. And why they chose him? They gave the reason. His consistency. He never got an injury. He never got an injury. The number of no balls that he has bowled is so negligible. In life, what takes you to heights is your consistency. And what is consistency? The courage to say no. Vivekananda says, a man of weak heart cannot be consistent, he says. A person with weak heart cannot be consistent because he can't say no. Why he can't say no? Oh, what will that person think? What will my neighbor think? What will that fellow think? What will this fellow think? Consistency is the capacity to say no to the interferences. Not general no. You have a goal and something is interfering. Consistency means the intellect says no to that interference. Cooperation is called teamwork. Layperson's term is called teamwork. What is teamwork? You understand that all achievements are possible by a group effort. No achievement can be done individually. You need the cooperation. You take the help of others. You need the help of others. Since you need the help of others, intellect says you cooperate. Everyone follow? All achievement is team effort. Teamwork. It means you need the help of others. See, what is the help of others? See, I am sitting and talking 10 to 11. And then I have another session, and then I have another session. By 1:30, I finish my sessions. I am able to sit and talk till 1:30 without worrying at all because I know I walk out of my room, my lunch is served on the table at 1:30. As I am talking, I should remember that there are so many people helping me to do this. Supposing if I think, oh my God, 1:30, I don't know where to, do I have to order Swiggy or do I have to order Zomato? No, what will happen? So I understand that even though I am sitting and talking, this talking of mine, this action of mine is supported by so many factors, direct support and indirect support. Intellect recognizes these two. Intellect recognizes the direct support and indirect support, as a result of which it cooperates with everybody. The fourth one is communication. Other species don't have communication problem. Human beings have only communication problem. It's a communication gap, sir. Even here, I have to keep asking, isn't it? Is it okay? Do you understand? Are we on the same page? I have to keep asking all that, no? Why? Because communication is a challenging exercise as far as human being is concerned. Intellect is that which knows how to communicate rightly. Observe it. Colony of ants will crisscross each other. Observe that. No, ants crosses each other. No, each and every time ant crosses each other, they will touch each other. They will kiss each other as though kissing, as though touching. That is how they are communicating. That's how ants communicate. I tell you, it's so fascinating, this exercise, sir. It's so meditative, it's so fascinating. Try it out. I have sat and watched. Not a single ant turns back and tells the other ant, touch me again. I didn't understand what you said. It never says that. Nowhere, and why? They know how to. The case of a human being, it is so difficult to communicate to one person to another person. What we call as a communication gap. I think one thing, the word that I use will be different. I end up doing something else. Thought is different. The word is different. The deed is different. Communication is the alignment of thought, word, and deed. Communication, nothing but an alignment of the thought, the word, the deed. And the last thing, exploring and creative is intellect. Exploring and creative is intellect. That's why Swamiji gives the example of intellect. Millions of engineers come out of engineering school all over the world. Millions of doctors come out of medical schools all over the world. One person transplants the kidney. One person finds out how to do. What is that? Same school, same syllabus, everything being the same. One person does it. That's called creative. That's called intellect. Able to follow? My mother in the kitchen is very creative. Huh? She's very creative. Creative doesn't mean you go to painting class, you go to art class. That's not a creative. Creative means in every field, it is creativity that brings about. You can call it creative or you can call it original. Any word you can use. It that brings a satisfaction. The satisfaction of having done what you have to do. That creativity gives that satisfaction. People say, think out of the box. How can you think out of the box when you are in the box and you are chained in the box? Not only you go into the box, you are chained in the box and you are sealed from outside. And then they say, think out of the box. How can you think out of the box? That thinking out of the box is called being creative. The last thing, intellect directs the mind and action towards an ideal. The last thing, intellect is that which directs the mind and action towards an ideal, a goal, pursues it and attains it. It directs the mind and action towards an ideal, pursues it and attains it. Contrastingly, we saw mind cannot direct itself. We saw that already. Mind cannot direct itself. A child cannot parent itself. And one child cannot parent another child. This is the intellect. Now, what is the intellect? Questions, thinks, analyzes, reasons, assesses, concludes, objective, decision maker, explores, obligations, no ownership, 5C. Last one is directing the mind and action towards an ideal, pursues it till it is attained. What is the role of the intellect? Is to fix an ideal and It knows how to make the mind cooperate. It will not force the mind. It will not torture the mind. It will not agitate the mind. It knows how to carry the mind with it. It knows how to carry the mind with it till the ideal is attained. Till the ideal is attained. This is intellect, and this intellect is the natural protection given to a human being. And this got to be developed. It got to be strengthened. It got to be developed. It means any development means a systematic training is required, not random training. If you have to develop something, you need a systematic training, not random training. The systematic training is the knowledge of Vedanta. This is the intellect. With this, we conclude the session for today on the intellect. If there are any clarifications, we will take it up. And then from the next session, we will see the practical applications of all the definitions of the intellect.
Hari Om, sir. I have a question. So you mentioned about questioning, thinking, and all of that. So sometimes when we analyze or think a situation, we tend to overthink, or we are like told that you are overthinking the situation. So my question is, where do you draw the line between thinking, overthinking, or is there such thing as overthinking? Is my question.
That is right. That is a very good question. Is there a thing called overthinking? There is no such thing called overthinking. Manasa, you phrased it very nicely. Is there a thing called overthinking? There is no such thing called overthinking. What people means by overthinking is you just go over the same thing again and again and again. Just the mind, like the ox in the oil mill. Like the ox in the oil mill. You understand, no? Ox in the oil mill? Yeah. You know Tamil, no? Shekku madundradha. Yeah. You understand? Ox in an oil mill. It just go round and round and round. That is called over. You are not thinking at all. There's no thinking. It is just going over the same thing again and again and again that freezes you from taking the action. You are so paralyzed. Thinking will not cause paralysis. But in the way that people are doing, they are so paralyzed. So it's not thinking. It is just going over the same thing over and over again and again and again, the same thing. No reason, no analysis. But that person believes that he is reasoning. That's not tragic. But that person believes that he is reasoning. That person is thinking that he is analyzing. That one is thinking, one is analyzing. What is the yardstick for thinking and what is the yardstick for thinking and analyzing? The yardstick for thinking and analyzing is an objectivity. In overthinking, you are so involved in it. You are so blinded by it. So people say, don't overthink, don't overthink. Think panine irundha, you will get confused only. Get into action. All that we'll see later. That's the conventional wisdom, no? Do it. Whatever comes, we'll see later. Do it first. What we will see later, only in ICU we can see ourselves later. Clear. I will be in ICU and the other person also will be in ICU. What we will see later. So, thinking, misunderstanding is thinking causes paralysis. It's not thinking that causes paralysis. It is going over the same thing like an ox in an oil mill. You get fatigued. You get fatigued. You get tired. Thomas Alva Edison didn't get fatigued, no? Eureka, that fellow didn't get fatigued at all. Yeah. So this thing is just, blew the soap bubble and he started running on the road naked, no? What they call as eureka moment. That is thinking. The word thinking is so misunderstood completely. The word thinking itself is so misunderstood completely. Thinking is not involved with objectivity. Thinking is just go over it again and again, so that every time you go over it, you get more confused. Every time you revisit it, you end up getting more confused. It's not thinking. For thinking tells you exactly what you can do, what you cannot do, what is possible, what is not possible. It tells you clearly everything. But the tendency of the human mind is to muse over the same thing again and again, which is misunderstood as thinking. And then it is called overthinking also. Correct. There is no such thing called overthinking, meaning you can never lift weight beyond your capacity. Correct. You can't lift weight beyond your capacity. You cannot do that. You can't run beyond your capacity. So you can also think only according to your capacity. But the mind can go over it again and again. That is over. Are you able to see the difference between the what is thinking directed properly versus what people call as overthinking? So the answer is there's no such thing as overthinking, or what people call as overthinking is nothing but repeat the same thing again and again. What to do, sir? You give a solution. Next day they will come and ask same question, what to do? 30 years later also they will come and ask the same question, what to do? Musing means mere illogical repetition is overthinking. Logical repetition is analysis. Illogical repetition is illogical, random, weird repetition is overthinking. In case if it doesn't work, you tell the person explore. And the person will ask, in case if it doesn't work, what will be the answer? Don't explore. What else can you do? Yeah, what else can you say? Don't explore. Wait till you get the guarantee and then explore. By the time you get the guarantee, you will not be able to do anything. Are you able to follow? So overthinking is worrying about factors beyond one's control. That is overthinking. Now I'm giving you the definition of overthinking. Worrying about factors that is beyond your control. That is overthinking. Intellect says, worry about the factors which is under your control. What is it that is under your control? There are only two things in life. What is under your control? What is not under your control? Only one thing that can come under your control is your mind. Anything else cannot come under your control. And human being does exactly the opposite. What do? They try to control everything else other than their own mind. So what is overthinking? The definition of overthinking. Worrying about the factors about which you have no reasonably, after reasonable analysis, you take the flight and sit in the flight. What is overthinking? Hope the pilot is a trained pilot. Hope the aeroplane will not crash when it lands. This is called overthinking, correct? Overthinking. Hope the fan above my head will not fall on me. What guarantee is there that it will not? Because it can crack anytime. Can fall. Now this is called overthinking, correct? This is not called overthinking. This is called hallucinating. Overthinking is nothing but hallucinating. What is hallucination? You get into the flight with the thing that it will land. But how sure are you, sir? Is there not that 1% possibility that it will not land on the runway? It may land in the ocean. That 1% possibility is there? No. That's it. Nothing can be done. So, worrying about factors, trying to control factors that it is not under your control is overthinking. Understand it? Trying to control the factors that can never be under your control is overthinking. Is it okay, Manasa, now? I explained it I started with common sense and then I went deeper and deeper. So finally, what is it? Overthinking comes when you are worried about the areas where you cannot
Control
What is it that you can control?
the mind.
What is it that you cannot control?
Everything else.
Correct. Correct. You can do the next session, Manasa. You have understood Vedanta now. Huh? You can do that. Now, next week, she will do the class. Huh? Not really, I will only do. So, what is it that you can control? Your mind. What is it that you can't control? But everybody wants to control everything else, no? I want to control my wife. I want to control my child. I want to control the government. I want to control this. I want to control everything else, thinking that if everything is controlled, overthinking is trying to do that is overthinking. Is it okay, Manasa? Yeah. Any other clarification? Does anybody else have any other clarification? Sunil. Does overthinking comes from negative emotions? It's the other way around. It is overthinking that causes negative emotion. The question that Sunil is asking is, negative emotion is the cause and overthinking is the effect. It's the reverse. Overthinking is the cause, negative emotions are the effect of overthinking. The cause and effect relationship. So, overthinking is the cause, negative emotions are the effect. So, whenever they see a negative emotion, they say, don't overthink. For negative emotions is the effect. The cause is overthinking. Is it okay, Sunil?
Thank you. Thanks.
With this, we conclude for today and we continue with the practical applications of the intellect in one area that we will see for the next of the few sessions.